Suddenly, the eerie silence of the dense pine forest was shattered by a piercing scream, like an animal writhing in pain, but it was a human voice. Luke's hand was drenched in blood, the handle of his motorcycle still trembling, and all around him, the towering shadows of ancient pine trees danced, as if the forest itself wanted to swallow him whole. Just 20 minutes earlier, he had made the biggest decision of his life, to rob a bank, all because he wanted to be the father to his son that he had never been. But now, with the distant wail of police sirens closing in, he was trapped, no way to escape, no way to turn back, only endless darkness and the fire of regret burning in his chest. Was this the same forest that held the mysteries of childhood stories, or a deadly trap that punishes the mistakes of fathers for generations? If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and if this story already stirs your heart, please hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the Gentle Hearts channel, because these stories aren't just entertainment, they're a way to connect hearts. Now, let's dive deep into this tale, where every tree hides a secret. Luke's childhood was as tangled as the forest itself, simple, yet full of hidden thorns. He was a circus stunt rider, a man who danced with death in front of cheering crowds, tossing his motorcycle into the air to earn applause. But behind the glitz of the circus, his heart harbored an emptiness, a wound that had been festering for years. Romina, his old flame, now lived with another man, but the bond between them hadn't fully broken. She had given him a son, Jason, a small boy who had settled into Luke's dreams without ever meeting him. Every night, alone in his trailer, Luke would imagine holding his son, kissing his forehead, whispering, "I'm here, son, forever." But reality was bitter. Financial struggles, the uncertainty of his job, and the fear that he could never be a good father gnawed at him. One day, at the circus grounds, when Romina introduced him to Jason, his tiny smile, those innocent eyes, Luke's heart melted. "I'll change," he promised himself. But the path to change was far from easy. The day before he got lost in the forest was the turning point of Luke's life. That morning, he arrived at Romina's house, a small bag slung over his shoulder containing only toys for Jason. Romina opened the door, her eyes holding a glimmer of old memories but her face lined with exhaustion. "You're back, Luke. What's the point? Your life is the same, flying through the air, falling, and flying again." Luke said nothing, just looked at Jason playing on the floor. In the boy's tiny hands was a toy motorcycle, just like Luke's. That moment was so tender that Luke felt this was his life's true stunt, catching love before it slipped away. But outside, the world was waiting. Luke's friend Robbie, a petty criminal, had already planted the idea of robbing a bank. "One hit, just one, and you'll be a rich father." Luke had refused, but sleep eluded him that night. The image of the forest haunted his mind, Schenectady's pine forest, where he used to hide as a child, where the pine needles pricked his feet but gave him a sense of freedom. One last stunt, he thought, and everything will change. The bank robbery was cinematic, but heart-stopping. Luke donned his helmet, revved his motorcycle, and burst through the bank's doors. The crowd screamed, a guard fired a shot, but Luke was fast. He slung the bag of money over his shoulder and sped out. The wind lashed his face as sirens clung to his trail. He headed straight for the forest, believing its dense canopy would hide him. But the forest betrayed him. He lost his way, his motorcycle's chain snapped, and he was forced to continue on foot. Pine needles stabbed at his shoes, the air grew colder, and darkness descended. With every step, he felt pursued, by the police, or perhaps by his own sins. He collapsed under a tree, opened the bag, and stared at the money, thousands of dollars, but Jason's face flashed before him. Tears streamed down. This is all for him, he told himself, but his heart screamed. It was wrong, not love, but fear. He stayed awake all night, listening to the forest's sounds, the rustle of leaves, the hoot of an owl, and, somewhere far off, a child's laughter, perhaps just an illusion. At dawn, he trudged on, but the forest pulled him deeper. Meanwhile, Avery Cross, a young police officer, was on duty. Avery's life was the opposite of Luke's, book-smart, ambitious, but broken inside. His father, a high-ranking officer, always said, "Don't rise above the system, son." But Avery felt the system itself was flawed. When news of the bank robbery broke, he rushed to the scene, the air thick with the scent of fear, money, and blood. Chasing Luke, Avery sensed this wasn't just a criminal but a shattered man. The moment came to shoot. Luke was fleeing toward the forest, bag in tow. Avery's hand trembled, he pulled the trigger, and the shot rang out. Luke fell, blood pooling around him. Avery ran to him, but it was too late. Their eyes met in Luke's final moments, not with hatred, but with pain, a father's pain. Avery grabbed the bag, his hands shaking. What have I done? He thought. The forest had seen it all, those trees, silent witnesses to centuries of human mistakes. Avery's life changed after that shot. He returned home, his wife embracing him, but his mind was hollow. His son, AJ, small and innocent, ran to him and asked, "Dad, you're a hero, right?" Avery smiled, but inside, he wept. He couldn't forget that night in the forest, Luke's face, his final words, perhaps never spoken. A promotion came at the department, but it felt tainted with blood. His nights grew restless. He visited the forest, to the very spot where Luke fell. Sitting under the pine trees, he felt Luke's breaths in the air. One day, he learned about Jason, the boy for whom it was all done. Avery decided to meet Romina. I was the one who, but Romina listened and silently wept. He wanted to be a good father, she said. Avery's heart broke. He met Jason, saw Luke in his eyes. I'll be your uncle, he promised, knowing this debt would be hard to repay. Time passed, weaving a web as dense as the forest. Jason grew into a rebellious teenager, filled with anger. Romina's marriage had fallen apart, and Jason felt his father's absence was the deepest wound of his life. At school, he was bright but clashed with friends, asking, "Where's my dad? Why did he leave?" Romina stayed silent, but one day, the truth came out. Avery, now a senior officer, came to Jason's school. There, he met AJ, his own son, and Jason, close in age, but worlds apart in fate. AJ told Jason, "My dad's a hero, but sometimes heroes make mistakes." Jason's anger erupted. He ran, straight to the pine forest where his father's story had ended. The forest called to him, as it had for centuries, in loneliness, in pain. Wandering among the trees, Jason cried, screamed, "Dad, where are you?" The wind answered, the rustling leaves telling an old story. When Avery heard, his heart sank. He raced to the forest, down the same path he'd chased Luke years ago. AJ was with him, silent but scared. "Dad, this forest will swallow us too," AJ said. Avery held his hand, and they pressed on. The forest threw challenges, winding paths, sudden rain turning the ground to mud. Avery's body tired, but his mind burned with a fire, redemption. He thought of Luke's eyes, Jason's smile, all merging into one. Night fell, dawn broke, and they found the spot, the tree where Luke had fallen. Jason sat there, exhausted, soaked in tears. Avery called out, "Jason." The boy turned, his eyes filled with hate, but behind it, pain. You killed my dad." Avery fell to his knees, head bowed. "Yes, I did. But every night, I die remembering him. I made a mistake, but now, I want to be your father, even if not by name." Jason broke down, collapsing into Avery's arms. AJ reached out, and the three became one, in the heart of the forest, where pain and love have deep roots. The story's twist was yet to come. The forest didn't let them go easily. On their way back, a storm hit, fierce winds, falling trees. AJ slipped, tumbling into a ditch. Jason and Avery pulled him out, but Avery was injured, a deep gash in his leg. Gritting through the pain, he kept going, thinking life's stunts are like this, falling, rising, holding someone up. Along the way, they talked, Luke's stories, Avery's mistakes, Jason's dream of a family. The forest taught them, trees don't stand alone, their roots connect below, their canopies shield each other above. As they emerged, the sun rose, the pine needles glinting like a blessing. Back home, Romina was waiting. Tears, embraces, and a new promise, they became a family. Jason called Avery, "Dad," for the first time, and Avery wept. AJ saw Jason as his brother. The forest was left behind, but its lesson stayed, mistakes happen, but love washes them away. Years passed, Jason grew into a good man, one who gave others second chances. Avery retired, built a small house near the forest, where he told stories, of himself, of Luke, of life. If this story touched your heart, brought tears to your eyes, Please like this video, share in the comments which part moved you the most, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Gentle Hearts, because stories like these remind us that kindness and second chances are the true strength. One special request. In the comments below, write this line, "My heart is as deep as the forest," if this story inspired you. Your words will fuel us to bring more such stories. Thank you, and we'll meet again in the next tale.